What's up, everybody? Just want to take a quick second and let people know that I am self-supported. I now put all of my episodes on Substack for paid subscribers. I put them up early, and then 24 hours later, I release them to the public on all my platforms. I also have Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, Zelle, a P.O. Box, and Locals, Patreon. And all of these, all of the links are in the show notes of every single episode I put out. So look forward to continuing to, provide great conversations. And thank you all for your continued support. Masako, Michael, thanks for coming back. I'm going to kick it off. I'm going to put the ball in your court. Where do you want to start with this? You want to start with the deployment of the National Guard and ICE, or should we start with Japan and the newly elected first female conservative prime minister?
Was she elected?
As a leader of the party.
As a LDP leader, right?
Yes.
Liberal Democratic Party leader.
So she's
so she's not prime minister just yet.
So what does that mean then, Masako?
Unlike US, we do not directly select prime minister. Whichever the dominant party of which the leader will be the prime minister. And coming 15th, I think the Diet is going to have a gathering, and then she will be officially appointed as the prime minister of Japan. So recently the election within the party happened, and she became the female leader of the Liberal Democratic Party. So it's a little detail, but she's not yet prime minister, but soon.
So she will be the prime minister, though?
Yes.
So she's the prime minister elect, so to speak, and this is that in-between time where she's been elected as that, but she has not been appointed. Am I understanding that correctly?
To be precise, she was elected as the leader of the party, and then she will be appointed as Prime Minister of Japan at the Diet. So first party and then Diet.
Who for people that don't know, who is this woman, and what are your thoughts on her? This episode is brought to you by McIlvaney Financial Group. Their advisors bring a depth of knowledge and experience that allow them to serve their clientele with care, ensuring their financial needs are met now and in the future. Personally, I'm not saying cash is worthless, but you can see what's happening. It's worth less every year. Gold is the opposite. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to www.mcilvaney.com/coffeeandamike.
Her name is Sanae Takaichi. She is a conservative politician, and also her husband is a politician too. And before I realized what's going on in terms of globalism, I will be kind of person who would be a strong supporter for her, meaning strong conservative, value in tradition, and go against wokeism, but not aware of globalism, what's going on. So I am anti-CCP aggression to Japan. She is also, but she is pushing the injection, and she was actually, for the third time of injection, she was proposing to schedule ahead, like meaning the third injection should be pushed in schedule. So she was very aggressive, and she is this one I have in common, but she wants to change the constitution of Japan, which was imposed by GHQ, General Headquarters, during the occupation of US after the World War II. So a lot of the conservative wants to have our own Japanese constitution. So one of the policy is to change the constitution, and that kind of things. But like I said, very important thing is she is not talking about global totalitarianism, and she is all go for lockdown for future pandemics. So she's very dangerous actually maybe more dangerous than the leftist politician because people who are going against wokeism, leftism, they're all for these women.
Isn't it amazing how and what you're saying here?
Can I ask one? What did you say? The leftist people are for her? Or the people are against the leftists?
Yes.
Got it. Right. In other words, Trojan horse.
Yes, like
Yeah.
President Trump. President Trump has a big supporter from conservative Christian people, but what he's actually doing is Israel first, and then he pushed the injection. So it's kind of like the same.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, because now the people on the right, which they're going to be like, yeah, and then I also was reading about her. Maybe you can confirm this for me. She's all about deporting, right? Or she's about locking the country down to not letting any more invaders come in.
During the race for the leader of the party, she was talking about it sounded like she's against the current policy for accepting immigrants. But she said, I will rethink about the policy from zero base. That's how she talked about. And she said, we are at one time massively accepting the people who do not share culture or the language, and customs are very different. So she was saying we have to make a policy for better coexisting. That's how she was saying, better for coexisting. So she's not like we need to push out to get out of all those people, but she was, I think, sugarcoating by saying better policy for coexisting.
What does that mean to you then? But what is her version of of coexisting?
It could serve both ways. People who are against those immigration policy, she will say, oh, I said, I'm going to think about better way. But at the same time, she can say the same thing and then address to the people who are pro-immigration. We are creating a better way. So, this better policy for coexisting, I think she's carefully choosing the words to serve both ways. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, she's using mealy mouth words.
Mealy mouth words.
In other words, trying to be squishy so that she can go any way that she wants.
Like, I will make sure those people follow the regulation or Japanese law. Of course, but what's fundamentally happening is the invasion by using migration. So she's not standing on that ground. She's talking about we are going to have the foreigners follow the law of Japan, and then we create the environment for good existing environment.
Basically treason. So, I mean, it comes down to Trojan horse. I mean, very obvious Trojan horse. I mean, she's a jab pusher. If we just skip past all the other issues and get to the point where she remains a jab pusher after 600,000 Japanese are already dead, and that's more than the fire bombings of World War II and the two atomic attacks combined, more than 600,000 Japanese already are dead, according to Dr. Yasufumi Murakami and his team and his statistics. And she's still ready to do another lockdown and push more jabs. So if you just skip past all that and get to that point, that's who you know she is, right? And when it came time for the actual jabs, she's on X like a lot of the other clowns were, getting a jab in her arm and in front of millions of people, young people, and that sort of thing. And 600,000 at least Japanese already dead.
Yeah, the post I think Michael is talking about was made by this politician, her, back in 2022. She posted picture of herself and having her arm, and then the doctor is giving injection to her. And then what she wrote for the picture was basically it said many people doubt that politicians are getting fake ones, but we are properly vaccinated. That's what she wrote. We are properly vaccinated. So she's obviously fully pro injection. And one of the things I strongly have concern about her policy is that when you remember back during the pandemic, Japan didn't have any forced lockdown or forced injection because by law, there is no such law that Japanese government can mandate those regulations. So what she's trying to do now is that we need emergency act, and whatever the disaster or pandemic happens, government needs to have the measure to regulate. And during that period, Japanese citizen needs to what should you say? Endure exercising their rights. In other words, she's saying during those periods, government should be able to take some rights away from those Japanese people to create safe and effective environment. So she is actively talking about this. We need emergency law. So that's one of the things I'm very concerned. If that happens, then if they expand those laws, Japanese people will be forced to get injection, and lockdown will be forced also. And many things that maybe happened in Europe or Australia, those things could happen in Japan in the future. So that's very frightening.
Does it appear, to what Michael said earlier about the Trojan horse? Because that was, my concern when Trump came back in. Because now it's like we're going to the same place. It's just been packaged differently now than it was with the last administration, and it sounds like that's what's happening in Japan, like where the masses in your country are like, yeah, we need this. Is that what you feel like is occurring?
Yes, you're absolutely right. In Japan, like in American political group, like conservative or leftist, there are major bullet points, talking points. For us Japanese, conservative people, we have several, which is we need to have our own constitution that express that we have the sovereignty over our country. So modifying the constitution is very important topic, has been important topic. And the other is throw out Article 9. That's related to this modifying constitution, but Article 9 means that we cannot defend by ourselves. So we always need to depend on America. But nowadays, we don't know if U.S. would really protect Japan or not. But many conservatives falsely believe if something happens to Japan, then the Article 5, U.S. and Japan, what do you call that? Treaty?
Mutual defense.
Mutual defense. Article 5, if Article 5 triggered, then U.S. will protect Japan. So we automatically think this will go on. But so in order for us, Japan, not to rely on US, we have to toss out Article 9. So those things and make Japan great again because of the CCP threat, those kind of things are very important major point. She also expressed those issues, but at the same time, she pushes like lockdowns and more power for the government. She has never spoken against about globalism. So it is a Trojan horse is very good expression for this politician, actually. Yes.
What about the idea of digital? How much will the technology play a part in her agenda using these tech companies?
Yeah, I read her policies and she's talking about investing a lot in AI. Yes. So she's all for those technology too.
So CBDCs and
I don't know specifically, I don't remember specifically about she's advocating for CBDC, but um, I think she is, I have not heard of going against it. Yeah.
well, it feels like it all comes under the same playbook, right? I mean, what's happening in the United States, it sounds like now that blueprint is going to be implemented in Japan, where we have a Trojan horse of the appearance of somebody that is, a Donald Trump-like figure, but yet push the gene therapies on the invisible virus, and now investing in AI, and instead of having illegal invaders, they'll find a different route to legalize these people. So because isn't India where majority of these people are coming from right now into Japan?
We have many people from India. Recently, the Prime Minister of India visited Japan, and then the current Prime Minister of Japan, Ishiba, they had an agreement that Japan is going to invest a lot in India, and also many workers will come to Japan from India. And there is one policy that the newly elected one, post on her policy list regarding because you said gene therapy. She wrote, for vaccines and pharmaceuticals, we will establish a system capable of handling raw materials, production, know-how, and personnel entirely within Japan. So she is all for investing those kind of industry.
Tells you everything you need to know. And this is what Michael, you were talking about this. You never changed your stance from the get-go in regards to Trump. And I'll admit, I mean I was wrong, but right when he came back in office, even a little bit before, you had Larry Ellison from Oracle come in, and he was talking about new vaccines and new solutions, and you had the big tech people saying, well, we might have got the mRNA wrong, but we'll and I'm paraphrasing here, but we'll correct it going forward. But there was no plan to move any of this, to stop any of it.
No, I'm sorry. I got actually something serious going on here. The Trump, the total days I've supported Trump remain at 0, and lifetime days of support remain at 0. I saw through him like an X-ray from day one. It's crystal clear. Same that I saw through Gerald McChrystal and Gerald Menard, and this new potential prime minister who almost certainly will become prime minister of Japan, Takaichi. She is a clear, obvious Trojan horse, and a lot of people are excited about her. But actually, now, finally, at this late date, I have more credibility with calling the ball on people. So people are, quite a lot of people have reached out to me, major influencers that, asking for my opinion. And I'm telling every single one of them, same thing. She's a clear Trojan horse. She's a jab pusher, so you can skip past all that other nonsense, whatever she thinks about Article 9 and all this other stuff, which is important. Remember, I've been saying for years, I've written 3 books on Chinese information war that are only in Japanese language. So, and those are the latest one is probably more than 10 years old, right? And I've been saying consistently the whole time, Japan needs to throw out Article 9 and be prepared. China is clearly preparing for war against Japan. It's obvious. I've been all over China researching this, going to their museums, watching their information war. I've never seen a single war that doesn't radiate a lot of information in advance. Wars radiate long before they actually happen, right? They radiate information. You can watch And this one, China is radiating brighter than the sun. They're getting prepared. It might be 20 years from now before they do it. I don't know when they'll go to war with Japan, but they are clearly preparing the runway to go to war with Japan. And so Japan does need to throw out Article 9. Japan needs a much stronger self-defense force, and so she's saying the right things on those things. But at the end of the day, let's skip past all the big smorgasbord. She's not talking about mass deportations. So she's got this nice big smorgasbord of things and pleasant words that she's saying, but she's not talking about mass deportations of the invaders who are causing huge problems in Japan. And she's not talking about going after pharma and stopping all these death jabs. She's just not. And so and she is totally demonstrably a jab pusher. And again, so this is like having a nice big Swedish table, as they call it in Europe, a nice big buffet, beautiful foods, all these different things she's saying, so beautiful, so tasty, so nice, smells so good, and there's a little bit of poison here. Take the death jab. That literally, Japan cannot continue to attack their own population or allow it to be attacked. We don't have any idea what this is going to do to fertility. We don't know what it's going to do. We know that it's killed, according to Dr. Yasufumi and his team, Dr. Yasufumi Murakami and his team, that it's killed over 600,000 Japanese so far, and they're dying constantly. And she wants to push more jabs. You couldn't get an enemy attack like that. Seriously, 2 atomic attacks and all the fire bombings we did on Japan killed fewer than 600,000 people. The death jab has been nuclear weapons level weapon of mass destruction. And she's ready to do it again to her own country. That's what's called treason. She's a traitor and she's a Trojan horse. Maybe I'll never get back into Japan again. I'm saying what I think. It's very serious. I mean, at these times, you just can't blink. You just got to go into it. People have to defend themselves. You don't ask for freedom. You take it, right? You never ask for freedom. Asking for freedom, you're a slave. You're on your knees. You just take it, right?
Well, what is, how does it make you feel then, Masako, as being from there, what is the future of Japan then?
Future of Japan. Globalist is clearly going towards having Japan as next Ukraine, I think. Japanese conservative always have been wanting to make Japan great again, meaning be sovereign country again, which has not happened since we lost war. So, and there was also always discussion about what really happened during the war, and we need to take back our sovereignty in the discussion regarding the constitution and how our country is running now. And so those things, it never came to fruition. Is this term correct? Like
fruition, yep.
No matter how the grassroots movement became big, and we are calling the referendum that we should vote to modify constitution, it never happened. It never happened. But recently, it's going to look like we can do it that way. But is it a good thing? I think Japanese people have to think, it has not been able to do that for so long time, after 80 years after the war. Why now we are going towards that way? It's because I think globalists want Japan to be strong, to be used as a puppet, to have war against China. So in this sense, I think we are in a kind of dilemma. Japan wants to be strong and need to have a sovereignty, but at the same time, this course should not be used by globalists. So it's in a very difficult situation, I think. And Japanese self-defense force is building back, and they are now no longer having public, what do you call that? Once you have a big training exercise, which many people got to see, they are closing because they are, according to them, they are focusing on the training rather than making it like a festival. So I feel like my country is in the hands of globalists trying to prepare for the war. But who is in charge of Japan? Who is controlling Japan? I think that's the problem. So that's the kind of sort of like a direction I see. We could be used as a proxy. Proxy war may happen in Japan.
That's what President Grant or former President Grant warned about specifically in 1879 when he was in Japan in his letters between former President Grant and the Emperor of Japan in volume 29 of his letters. He's warning about that. He's warning how outside influencers, this is 1879, he's specifically warning the Japanese emperor in an exchange back and forth in letters that outside influencers will come and provoke a war between Japan and China and loan Japan and China money and then own both Japan and China. That's clearly what is on the menu. We've been warning about that for a long time, not as long as President Grant. President Grant warned about it in 1879 in clear soldier words, right? If you read it, volume 29 of his letters, you can read what I'm talking about.
Is it similar to what's happening in the United States? Well, across across Western society, where you've had all these illegals, these invaders come in because the people at the top think that they can control them, right? And then you get full takeover of society. Is it similar to that in Japan then as well?
What do you mean?
He's talking about the demographic. He's talking about. I think you're talking about the invasion with the aliens, right?
Yes.
Right. That's a different component of the same war. There's the demographic component with the invasions, and then there's the other component on a different level, which is direct war between China and Japan.
So then who? Go ahead, sorry. Go, Masako.
Sorry, there is one book I really want to introduce you. So I'll be back 30 seconds. Sorry.
You know what? This is actually starting to make me wonder. Masako's running off to get a book, apparently. And whenever she does something like that, it's going to be interesting. I've looked at Chinese information war quite a lot. And, as time goes on, I begin to wonder how much of that is organic in China. Well, it looks like it's organic from Chinese Communist Party, but is it? Because a lot of these information wars, they look like for instance, it looks like there's an organic information war from Korea, but I know from heavy research that I did more than 10 years ago, I and Al Johnson and others, Al, we did this research together. We traveled around Asia, massive amount of research. We realized that this information war that appeared to be coming from Korea was actually coming from China and like definitely coming from China. And then, but, as time goes on, look at what President Grant was warning about in 1879, the guy with the giant crystal ball. I wonder if this information war that's coming through China is actually coming through somebody else, right? But China would definitely be like when you go to Korea, the Koreans are definitely the ones running this information war against Japan, but they're not the ones who started it or the ones who fuel it. The fuel was coming from China, but is the fuel of the anti-Japanese information war in China, coming through Chinese museums and whatnot, Chinese musicals and things that we go see. I'm just curious if there's yet another layer of this that's provoking China to do it. What do you have there, Masako?
Do you think, before you show that book, do you think it's through the United States government as being the facilitator of all this?
I don't know.
Because you could be very well right. Because here's the thing that I think about in my head is, we've always been, we've been painted this picture, China's the enemy, China's the enemy, China's the enemy. But, who are the agitators right now? The United States government, right? Who are the ones that are going into these proxies currently with Venezuela? We're blowing up boats like Miami Vice in Venezuela right now.
Right.
Syria, who's responsible behind Syria?
Right.
Israel, the United States. I think Turkey might have played a part in it. So, and maybe I'm way off here, but what is always the common denominator? I wonder myself, is China, are they the real enemy? I mean, China came into the United States, they're buying up farmland. You had Chinese spies sleeping with politicians. They infiltrated the universities, but who let that happen? The United States government. I can't believe they didn't know this was going on.
Right. What do you have there, Masako?
Oh, so this is a very interesting book that it's in Japanese, but it's a talk between former Japanese Self-Defense Force Special Force Commander and Professor Jason Morgan from Reitaku University. And Michael knows Professor Morgan, and we both know Professor Morgan. And during their conversation, they're talking about the title of the book is Take Back Our Country. That's the title of the book. And they're talking about the Japanese Self-Defense Force. And Professor Morgan in the book mentions 2025 March, new operation command was established. It says the name of this command is Japanese Self-Defense Force Joint Operations Command. So land and air and sea, they created one division that oversees those three divisions. And Professor Morgan is analyzing the reason why this command is newly established is because to work with American military and Japanese Defense Force work together, but which means that America needs to oversight the command. So in order to do this, then Japan side created this command, so America can easily control the whole Japanese self-defense force. That's his analysis. And then after Professor Morgan mentioning his analysis, this special Japanese self-defense force, special force commander, his name is Araya Takashi. He says, you're right. In order for allies to work together, there has to be a clear line of command. What do you call the line?
Chain of command.
Chain of command. And until now, US side has been demanding Japan to sort this chain of command, but Japan left it ambiguous before then. But this time, it seems like Japan finally replied to US demand. And so this means that it's a very critical issue because Japanese self-defense force being the only force with armed force would not be operated by the country of Japan, but controlled by US military and globalist. So, do you understand my point?
Mike?
So it's,
do you understand?
So it sounds like it won't really change. Security will still be there, but it won't be provided from the country from within. It'll be an outside. So it's the same thing, right? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes. The point that I wanted to make was that chain of command is now very solid now than before, meaning this could be a sign that there is going to be a war. In other words, it seems like they are preparing for war. That's why they are making this chain of command so solid.
So they're building the infrastructure to make it more clear cut of what the chain of command is when something will occur.
Yeah.
It's clear. I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of actually something going on. That's why.
Can you share? Can you do a Coffee and Mike exclusive, or is it private?
Private, but I mean, sorry, that's why I'm a little distracted. Usually, I don't mean to be impolite.
No,
It's just,
you're fine. You're fine.
You can imagine.
But
I mean, what's going on though with Japan is clear preparation for war. Again, those 3 books that I wrote on Chinese information war, they're all about 10 or more years old, right? I mean, we could see this coming a mile out. These wars radiate way in advance, and it's really slowly ramping up for kinetics. It will go beyond information war, and there's many vulnerabilities. Like Japan does not have food security, does not have energy security. The farmers are aging out. The normal dynamics are Japan could be put into a famine easily, and obviously that's of serious concern, to put it mildly. Japan needs to throw out Article 9, and Japan does need nuclear weapons. I mean, I know that's unpopular to say that, but I'm just being realistic. China and others need to know that at the end of the day, if you start blowing up Japanese cities, that you can actually take out Three Gorges Dam with one shot, right? And that you can actually make this a war that nobody wants on Earth, right? And that's the most likely way to be able to stop it. This is really a dangerous world that we live in. It's clearly becoming more and more dangerous. I mean, obviously, I don't want to see anybody else with nuclear weapons. We already have way too many people that have them. One was too many. No sooner did we get those that we used them on Japan. And obviously, I know a lot of people out there say, oh, we had to do it for this, that, and the other reason, which is utterly bullshit. But we used them anyway. And others will use them as well, right? Others will use those instantly. We got right now in the Middle East. This is all related. This is all the same war. This is what's happening with China and Japan is not a separate issue. It is directly related with Panama. It's directly related with Israel and Suez and Ukraine. It is all the exact same war, right? It's the exact same war that we're over here looking at over in Thailand. You've seen this conflict that just popped up on the border. We didn't even go to the border because it's not even about that. And, the Pravert Temple that people are talking about with that 1907 French map has zero to do with that temple. That's what all the news says. It's a border dispute between Thailand and Cambodia. The shootings that they had and the airstrikes had nothing to do with that temple. That's what it says in the news. It's all about routes and resources. Right outside our window is the Chao Phraya River. That's the Mississippi River of Thailand, right? This is it. This is a very, very important river. That's why we're here. You've got other, routes. This is all about routes and resources. That temple fight is about energy in the Gulf of Thailand. It's about building trains from China and down through Thailand and down, and it's about splitting Thailand apart. If they can bait Thailand into a war with Cambodia, that's a great amount. First of all, you'll bleed Thailand down on money. This is a super rich country. A lot of people don't get that. There's people that live in Thailand for 20 years or whatever, and they don't have any idea how rich this country is. This is an amazingly rich country. We read something a couple days ago that it's wealthier than Netherlands, which I can believe that. It's on par approximately with Switzerland. If that's, depending on how you're going to measure, I don't know how they're measuring. We read that the other day. But having been around to these other countries and having been all over Thailand, I can actually see that. This is a very, very rich country. There are a lot of people that would like to split it into pieces and for their own different reasons. But this is all the same war. Destroying Japan, China would love that. China would love to, first of all, take the land, and they would love to have where Masako's from is Okinawa, right? Luchu or Ryukyu. They would love to have that. They would love to have Formosa, obviously Taiwan. And information war is so intense. I've talked about it with you before. Everybody in the world seems to know falsely that Taiwan is a breakaway province of China. But actually, Taiwan was never, ever, 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 not for one day, part of China. Never. And I know there's experts out there that are about to have an aneurysm and they're throwing stuff around the room. And I challenge you, before you post anything, find it. Find it. Find it. Find it in the records. I challenge you. I don't know where you're going to find it, but you're probably going to have to fly over to China, right? And they've never been able to produce it. All they are able to produce is information war. And they have Chinese have persuaded Chinese people that Formosa, Taiwan is theirs and they can take it. They're trying to persuade Chinese, and I think it's working, that Ryukyu, which is, Okinawa, where Masako is from, is theirs, is Chinese. They're trying to persuade them the same thing, that Japan is theirs, Chinese. They're trying to persuade Chinese people that the United States is theirs, Chinese. Get it? It's crystal clear. You got Chinese moving in all over the United States. They're not looking at themselves as immigrants. They're looking at themselves as, we're coming to take our land. And a lot of Americans don't get that. They don't get it at all. They're not paying attention. They're sitting on a log like a turtle getting some sunshine, right? And meanwhile, these different information campaigns that are going on, persuading people to invade Europe. Europe's dead. Europe's gone, right? It's going to be nothing. The Europe that we knew, I lived there for more than 6 years. It's over. It's finished. Ireland's dead. Luxembourg's dead. Netherlands, that everybody used to love, dead, right? Yeah, there's still a lot of Dutch people in the Netherlands. There's a lot of British people in Great Britain, but Great Britain is not great anymore. It's just Britain, and the old Britain is dead. It's gone. It's already gone. It's not coming back in the way that it used to be. It's too late. They've crossed the event horizon. And so at this point, it's come down to, what's it really going to look like? Are people going to fight? Nobody's going to come save you. You either fight or you're going to be exterminated. You're going to be enslaved and exterminated. That's clearly what's coming down. It's obvious. It's obvious. The same is true in America. The same is true in Japan. Japan is being invaded. Japan is highly death jabbed. They're trying to push drugs into Japanese people now. Now we got drug places. Where are those drug addict dolls at? We got drug
addict doll. A drug addict doll?
What? Look at these things. There's cannabis stores now all over Thailand. Just 3 years ago, they weren't here. Take me home. Here's the daddy doll.
So for people are going to listen to this and not watching the video, these are baby Yodas from The Mandalorian. What does that sign say? Take me home. I'm for sale. What is that though?
It's the price.
Nope.
We bought these. Masako and I bought these because it's so appropriate for so many of the influencers and mainstream. He wants to go
so I can see the whole face. It's a baby Yoda.
Okay, watch this. And here's Mama, right? Blue-eyed Mama, right? Same thing. We bought them. She has feet, so she stands up. The other one doesn't. And then they got Baby Yoda, which is an actual bong. Look at that. You're smoking dope out of the baby's head, right? Keep in mind, King Rama IX never would have allowed this in Thailand. That's an actual bong right there. We just bought it in a store. And you can get prescriptions. You can walk into the dope stores, cannabis stores, and get a prescription at the counter, like when you're checking out. So it's like, yeah, you need a prescription for this, and you can get it when you check out. You can't make up this stuff. One of the ways we beat the Indians. The Indians, when we all flooded over for hundreds of years, one of the major weapons we used on Indians was not actual rifles. It was firewater, spirits, alcohol. We hit them with the alcohol. We hit them with the evil spirits, right? We hit them with the firewater. The alcohol destroyed the Indians. We saw some of those Indians in Canada when we went to Yellowknife a couple of years, whenever it was, we went up there, it was a year and a half ago. We went to Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, all on the same issues.
Is that with Tom Marazzo? Was that when you guys were with Tom Marazzo that time?
That was before.
Oh.
Well, after. We went with Tom, and then we went to Yellowknife. We went to Yellowknife after being with Tom. Then we went up to, and you can see the Indians. I think that was the first time I think that you had ever seen something like that, right? With the Indians just destroyed. right in front of us, like right out of the history books, but it's real life right now. I mean, it's an actual crime against humanity. Those Indians, their bodies, for whatever reason, can't take the alcohol. So how do you destroy them? Give them alcohol, and then get them into these debt traps and get them to sign agreements that destroy them. That's one of the ways we did it. Now you got these dope stores all over America, and you got the dope heads that are always saying, "Oh, you're such a boomer." What just the people that don't respect their own brains, I don't respect their thoughts. And I'm not about to start, I'm not going to meet them halfway when they're on dope, right? And you know where the name assassin came from? It came from hashing. They were using hash to make people into assassins. Hashing, assassin, right? That's where it came from. This idea that cannabis makes people all mellow and they don't fight is complete and utter nonsense, right? But what it does is make people stupid, right? It makes people actually believe that. And one of the ways they've dumbed them down and kept them from doing anything and kept, men from standing up and defending our country is they're all watching dope heads like Joe Rogan. Doper Joe Rogan. Oh, he's got the best guest or whatever. Yeah. Okay, so he's got, again, this giant big smorgasbord. It's a clear operation. So everybody comes for the big buffet table and a few drops of poison. So, at the end of the day, it's like, and let's, all these great guests, and let's smoke some dope together, and let's drink whiskey together. He's eating mushrooms on his own show. He's literally eating mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms. Psychedelic mushrooms, like Aztecs used to use to kill thousands of people, right? They would use those mushrooms to kill thousands of people at a time, right? So this idea that all this is just about, oh no, we're enlightening we're becoming super intelligent. No, you're not. You're just a dope head. And it's an actual weapon. It's an actual weapon. The fentanyl, all these things, right? The Chinese are flooding into the United States. They're flooding drugs into here, Thailand. There's actually increasing drugs now in Japan, believe it or not. Also in Taiwan. So Thailand, Taiwan, Japan, and needless to say, the United States. I mean, you have to step over the shit on the streets. This is all about weak men allowing this. Meeting evil halfway is not a plan. You don't meet evil halfway. You confront it. You get it while it's asleep, right? I mean, and so at the end of the day, Japan has to stand up, and it's time to do it now. However, anybody who's a jab pusher should just be shunned. And the LDP party, there is one way to fight back on this, and that's to talk and do speeches, which Masako does on a regular basis, and tell people, LDP people, Liberal Democratic Party, stop donating any money whatsoever to anybody who pushes jabs. No money, no support, no nothing. I'll send it to somebody else. All support should go to somebody like Trump. There's still people that are going, what about Biden? You got to be on dope to actually try to think that the choices are Trump or Biden, red pill, blue pill, pills from the same dude, right? Don't take either pill. And the same is happening now in Japan. I'm getting all these messages from Japanese today and asking me, and I'm like, well, Masako's right here. I can ask her. But at the end of the day, the supporting this woman who sounds like the greatest thing in the world, she's a jab pusher. At the end of the day, 600,000 Japanese are already dead. What's it going to do to the birth rate? Actually, Masako's right here, so I should be quiet and let her talk.
Well, I want to ask.
Masako.
I want to ask
I'm getting fired up.
I want to ask you something, Masako, in relation to that, because, and then I want to talk about the National Guard as it's expanding out in the United States. But do you have faith in the election systems in your country anymore, Masako?
In Japan?
Yes.
I cannot say I trust. Yeah. After what I seen, what happened in US and foreign people, foreign outside force, they can manipulate one country's election, then it could happen in Japan too. So it's not just election, but now, like the way I see the world, not just my country, is there anything we can really trust after all those what happened, and it still keep going on. So I think I used to be one of the people in the crowd. I was very passionate about like a politician. If this person get elected, become prime minister, at that time that was Prime Minister Abe for me, then Japan will be saved. I was really passionate, and at that time because that's why I was very passionate and I was in the narrative by the I think the media and globalist. That's why I had many opportunities to be invited by those circles to give speeches. And one time I got a chance to. There are five, I think, conservative women who got a chance to meet Prime Minister Abe for New Year's special edition of interview. And I wear nice kimono and like how Prime Minister Abe can make Japan great again. I was in that ecosystem. At that time, I didn't think I was lied to or I was manipulated. I was doing from the bottom of my heart. But that base itself was like a controlled, or not the opposition, but controlled opinion surface. And my passion, I realized at one point, my passion and me being so fascinated by those leaders was, I was seeing an illusion. So come to your question, if I believe in our election, I don't trust anything. Yes, yes. What do you think my answer?
Can the system be salvaged at this point in your country? Or is it too far gone?
I think now it's time for us not to talk about the system, but we need to talk about the like foundation ground. Because an entire thing is a theater. So if we only talk about this instrument in this playbook, is it trustworthy or not? Something will be authentic. Something will be very fake. But as a whole, it's an illusion. So we need to toss out everything and see who is orchestrating this. Otherwise, we are just playing in their hands. That's what I think. Because many are organic and many are artificial. So if we talk about what is authentic and what is artificial, instead of talking about as a whole, then we will be going into rabbit hole. And because there is no way we can sort everything out. So that's my answer.
And Prime Minister Abe was such a threat that the powers that be decided that he needed to go. He had to be taken out. Is that what you feel happened there? I mean, why I'm asking that is that's what I feel with Charlie Kirk. You know, there were powerful people that felt he was too much of a threat and they had to take him out.
I think being assassinated for Prime Minister Abe's case doesn't make him a hero, doesn't make him anti-globalist. He was globalist. He is, back in 2016, around when he was the prime minister, he was all for the movement going towards the UN Global Compact for migration, and which leads now the great destruction of the US, weaponization of migration. He was in it too. And that's why this mass weaponization of migration is happening in Japan. So Prime Minister Abe was not a anti-globalist, but obviously he was assassinated. So he was a great threat to other globalists. That's what I interpret.
Do you see any parallels with that in relation to Charlie Kirk? I mean, Charlie Kirk wasn't a politician, but for all intents and purposes, he was a politician.
Because he had a great influence
on the younger people. And Turning Point was a political organization that somebody powerful felt that he was too much of a threat and had to be removed.
Yeah, I think so. That's what happened, I think. Yes. It was not just one trans man happened to successfully manage to kill him, because there are so many things that doesn't make sense. Like Michael always emphasized, whoever took down the crime scene, clear the crime scene, is the one who did it.
Well, and shifting over to that for a second, because I know, Michael, you've been talking about it. I mean, the 30-06, and it what blows my mind away, and I'm kind of jumping around here for a second, because I think about the last time us three spoke, and I was having a conversation yesterday with somebody, who's a huge Turning Point, huge Charlie Kirk, Erica Kirk, because, the company's based in Phoenix where I live. And I go, yeah, but the spokesperson for Turning Point said the bullet didn't exit, that his bones were so strong and God prevented the bullet from hitting anybody else. And like, that just is so insane to me. They put that statement out, but people believe it. Like, people said to me, well, you don't understand Christianity, so you don't get how it works. And then I find myself, I'm like, why am I having these conversations with these people? Because they believe what they want to believe. And what you said last time, Masako, we don't have time for this. For people that are going to stay in the matrix, why even waste any energy with it? But Turning Point put out this statement, Michael, and you saw that, Michael, right? Where the bullet didn't exit. How does a bullet not exit out of somebody?
Yeah, they're clearly lying. My experience with Turning Point USA is when I stayed in the same hotel they stayed in Arizona, and they were drunk, openly drunk. And, I messaged the Bannon at the time. I'm like, these guys are drunk. They're counting votes now on the midterms, and these clowns are drunk. You know what I mean? This is like the middle of the election. And, I'd flown back from Asia somewhere. I went to Maricopa County, Arizona, because I thought out of all the counties, all the thousands of counties in America, if they were going to steal it openly anywhere, it'd probably be Maricopa. And I went there, and they did. And as you know, Maricopa was on the news ever since. And in Turning Point, I stayed in the same hotel they stayed in, and they were just staggering drunk. So drunk, it was like, are you going to fall and hit your head off the counter type stuff, yeah, and you can't make up the stuff. So this is supposed to be the Christian organization. That was my first and only actual close experience with them. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I've seen enough. That's all I need to see. This is not the droids that they're advertising to be. And so I turned against them right then. I hardly knew who they were. Came into that experience where they were all drunk together, and that was it. I shields up, Captain. You only need to see something like that once. What did Maya Angelou say, right? Maya Angelou said, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time, right? And she said it. That's exactly right. They showed me who they were. And now Charlie Kirk, he was clearly a Zionist puppet. He was since a young age. This is what I think happened. He went off the reservation. I think what happened was he's only useful to the people holding his strings as long as he can herd the people below him. He's like a cowboy. Charlie Kirk was like, he's a puppet. He's a cowboy puppet, right? He's a puppet, but his job is to cowboy the herd of people under him, because Israel, let's say the Zionists, are losing support of that huge base in America that they need to bleed billions of dollars from us. They need that new base, and they're losing it. and Charlie Kirk was one of their great white hopes, let's say, on keeping that herd from stampeding. But the herd was starting to groan and run and stampede and kick the dirt because Epstein Island. No, nothing has happened with that. Epstein murdered with no videos, more evidence sanitized. Gaza genocide, Iran fighting Ukraine, so many different things. And meanwhile, hundreds of billions of dollars going to ungrateful people who are actually genetic superior, let's say racist. They're like, because of our genes, we deserve your money. We're the chosen people because of our genes. That's the ultimate racism. It cannot become more racist than that. And the young people see through this. They see it. They're like, wait a minute. We're supposed to be anti-racist, but these clowns are saying because they got some special gene, but they won't do the 23andMe thing because they know it'll turn out to be bullshit. So basically, a bunch of people are taking hundreds of billions of our dollars and demanding another kidney. And the people that Charlie Kirk is supposed to herd, they're like stampeding away from Charlie Kirk because Charlie Kirk can't get them to be down for the genocide in Gaza. He can't keep millions of young people interested in doing a genocide in Gaza and starting a war with Iran when they can't even pay their car bill. They can't pay their insurance. They can't pay for their university without going into lifelong debt, an ultimate debt trap. One of the ways we destroyed Indians was debt trap. It wasn't all alcohol. It was other things too. It was actually kinetic war. It was alcohol. It was actual debt traps, actually. The same sort of mechanisms. And the young students are seeing through this. And Charlie Kirk, this is what I think happened, watching what he's saying and how he's moving, was his base was moving away like a herd of cattle about to stampede with a lot of power. So what's Charlie Kirk going to do, the cowboy? Stand in front of a stampede or ride with it and go with it? Because if he can't control his base, then he's of no use to the people holding his strings. Charlie Kirk is of no use to the string pullers above him if he can't control the herd below him. And I think, based on watching Charlie Kirk, he decided, I think he had political aspirations. That's pretty clear. And that if he's going to have any political future, he's going to have to take a chance that those guys won't kill him. And he was clearly concerned that they would. He was openly concerned they would kill him. He decided to go with the herd and they killed him. That's what I think happened, right? I think it's quite clear, actually, that at least some variation of that happened. Clearly, the people that killed him were the same people that he was afraid would kill him. The same people who sanitized the crime scene after the so-called Trump assassination. The same people who sanitized the crime scene on October 7th after murdering over 1,000 Israelis that the IDF actually worked with Hamas. I don't know if they worked with them side by side, but the IDF openly killed many Israelis themselves. They allowed the attack to happen. They allowed October 7th to happen. And then they sanitized the crime scene, right? And then they used that as casus belli to do genocide. This is the same suspects that hit 9/11, right? Destroyed thousands of Americans that day, and the USS Liberty. There's something in common here. It's Zionist, right? Clear as day. And many of the worst Zionists are American white guy Christian Zionists, because most Zionists seem to be American Christians who put up with this shit and allow them to continue to do it and say, no, we've got to help the magical elves because they got some magical gene that they say they have from God. And because of the magical gene, the magical beans that they supposedly have, we're supposed to give them our kidneys because they have a magical gene that they say they have. It's like the magic beans from Jack and the Beanstalk. It's clear. It's over. We have no use for Israel. They're an enemy of the United States. Charlie Kirk was starting to see that. He was starting to see clearly through it, right? And keep in mind, Israel is behind a lot. Let's say Zionists are behind a lot of these things, right? Zionists actually Israel is an aircraft carrier for Zionists. The Zionists can do without Israel. They don't actually need it. And actually, it looks like there may be a polarity shift away from Israel. A lot of people are like, hey, Israel is a puppet that's out of control. They're a Pinocchio that's got a life of its own. This often happens with puppets because Israel itself is a puppet. So there's Zionists and then there's Israel, which are, very deeply entwined, but they're not exactly the same thing. Israel and many Zionists are completely out of control. And a lot of people can see this. I mean, I think President Trump is actually afraid of the Zionist himself, right? And I think what appears to be, we just had some communication this morning about it, the polarity shift may actually be going to Qatar. Unclear. A lot of people are starting to notice that. The Qataris seem to be noticing it. That would be a big deal for Israel, that's for sure, because the Israel was actually formed to control the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal opened in 1869, and since that time, the British Empire, the greatest empire on planet Earth at that time, and the biggest empire that was there, right? But once the Suez Canal opened, people started calling the Suez Canal the spinal cord of the British Empire. So Great Britain needed to control the Suez Canal. Long story short, using Theodore Herzl as a puppet, they formed the Zionists that we know and who worked directly with Nazis. The Zionists worked direct. Let me be crystal clear so that there's no mealy mouth words here, which I don't like. Zionists worked with Nazis to get Jews out of Europe and into Israel. Israel didn't exist yet, but they did that as part of a larger game to do multiple things, but the biggest one was to control the Suez Canal, right? But now, and keep in mind, when Israel was formed, or actually back when Theodore Herzl was writing about the Jüdische Staat in Palestine, he wrote it in German, he was talking, that was before any oil was discovered in the Middle East, right? There was no oil discovered yet. Suez Canal opened in 1869. There was no oil, right? So all these other energy sources that have been found and the great wealth that's been found since then just increased the value of the Suez Canal. So, I mean, it's a canal worth definitely fighting for, and people are definitely fighting for it. And the fight is absolutely not going to end. And there's going to end up being a war in Panama. It's crystal clear, right? Routes and resources. So the bottom line is this is a major war, and it includes Japan, it includes Thailand, it includes the entire United States. If you're in the United States, you're not safely removed from it. I don't care if you're in Idaho or Montana or up in Alaska. You're not safe. Why did Trump just meet Putin in Alaska recently? I think there's no coincidence to that. But you're not safely removed from anything if you're in the United States or Canada. Canada is a very, very, very wealthy country filled with lazy Canadians. They've always been mediocre achievers, right? And that's why they've been able to keep. I'm not saying something bad about Canadians. I've always loved Canadians. I've been all over Canada. But at the end of the day, the only reason they were able to live up there and say, we have a small defense budget. Why do you have such a large defense budget, United States? It's because we were your southern border, right? Because we were not going to invade Canada. But one thing that people must keep in mind is Canada is one of the richest countries on planet Earth, by far, far richer than Japan, right? That's Canada, and it's mostly empty, right? The Chinese and the Indians noticed, right? A lot of people have noticed that Canada is filled with vast riches of water, minerals, the whole works, and very few people, and the few people that are there are very compliant. They're very, Trudeauish. And not all of them. There's some very serious and tough Canadians. But at the end of the day, it's all part of the same war. China is taking Canada, and clearly the Indians are going to fight them for it. And the Indians are going to fight each other too, Sikhs versus Hindus, that sort of thing. That's normal. And then the Zionists want their piece, right? So, but the Zionists seem to be, the tide is going out for them. They're getting frantic. They can clearly see they're losing their support base. They're clearly seeing the whole anti-Semitism, anti-Judaism accusations no longer work. They're counterproductive. Charlie Kirk started going off the reservation. Bam, he's dead. Now, some people say he's not dead. That's false. as a first principle, I actually don't know if he's dead. Maybe he is alive. Maybe he's, growing a beard and growing his hair out somewhere, and they're going to roll him out on some opportune Easter, and they're going to say, Charlie Kirk has risen. He's our new Messiah, right? Because this is the way information war actually works. And they may actually do something that audacious. I think he's dead. But if he's alive, why would they keep him alive unless they have future plans for him? But in any case, at the end of the day, Japan is now facing the same situation that Americans faced with Trump, and that is, well, who did you want? The other guy or this one who's even more dangerous? Like the MAGA people believed Trump, they believed him, and what did he do? He did exactly what I said he would do. He committed treason. He is completely going against MAGA. He's gone full jab. He's making basically the White House into a drugstore. He pushed cannabis in Florida, the whole works. Trump is like this with Soros, right? It's not even hidden. It's right on the surface, right? And so it's the same with this new Trojan horse that may soon be Prime Minister of Japan, right on the surface.
What do you think about how the Turning Point's now they promoted or they've moved his wife as a CEO, and Turning Point's out there doing the speaking engagements and trying to collect money and
Masako?
Yes. If I were to be honest, I thought it's very strange. His wife's speech, and many people say she's a Christian and very strong woman. That's why she can be outspoken and doing this kind of work right after her husband passed away. But if can a person really be out and having two little children and right after losing her husband, can she be so? It's like it looked like pushing business too much. That's what I felt. And because Charlie Kirk was invited to Japan right after he was assassinated, so the politician in Japan from Sanseto Party, they had a connection with Charlie Kirk, and they were actually planning to have an event next year. So they started to work with them. So they had a communication, right? So after he was assassinated, one of the politicians who went to US to have a meeting for his speech this year, his name is Sen Yamanaka. He posted on X saying, we got a message from America side, and basically this Japanese politician is telling Japanese people, if you support his family, please donate to them. And I felt like they are collecting money. I understand that the Turning Point USA needs to keep doing its operation, but would they ask donation to Japanese people too in the occasion of right after the leader passed away? I felt very, very strange. And I was talking with other Japanese people, and we are talking, maybe it's because Japanese custom and American custom is different. So that's why maybe Japanese cannot understand, but maybe American culture, that's how it works.
No, it was straight up gross.
So
Let's just get to the bottom line. It was straight up gross.
So to me, it was very strange. Don't you have if I were to be in the same position, I think I don't want to be in front of people to, set my mind to what's really happened. And I don't trust FBI. So if there are somebody who would keep searching for the truth of what really happened, then that would be anybody but his family. That's what I think. That same thing is thinking about Prime Minister Abe's assassination too. like people, including myself, many people still think the assassination of Prime Minister Abe, it was very strange. And, we have not had a public hearing yet. This young man who said to shot him,
Still not.
not yet. He's kept in the detention. And actually, October 28th, I think, this month, October, we are going to have a first hearing. So many things are strange. And the police stopped investigating because they think that this young man is the assassin. But I was thinking, like, if anybody in Japan who still seek for the truth would be Prime Minister Abe's wife. So I'm curious what she thinks. And she is very active now too. She met President Trump too, as you know. After he was elected, she was invited for dinner. And for inauguration, Prime Minister Abe's wife was invited for the inauguration. So she went, and she's constantly flying all over to meet executives and high level politicians all over the world. So it seems like as if she is a politician. And I don't hear publicly that she is demanding for more truth. Also, because I was thinking about Prime Minister Abe's assassination like this, so about Charlie Kirk assassination, how can she be like, okay, she forgave the assassin, right? But in the public speech, she said I forgive him.
No, not the assassin. You mean the patsy that really...
Well,
the guy.
I mean, he clearly didn't shoot.
Here's
Here's
something else that's interesting. I had my friend Dave Collum and then Matt Smith were on Friday, and Dave brought this up, and Matt pulled it up on the screen. When you Google Charlie Kirk's children, there's no pictures of their faces. So
I noticed that.
All the
Somebody
photos
else
are
said
the
that.
backside. They're all back.
Oh yeah.
There's no, and people have said, well, they're protecting the kids. I said, well, okay. But there's nothing of the front. Even if it's grayed out, there's no frontal picture of the kids. Maybe it's nothing, but it's a little weird, no?
Yeah, no, what I was gonna say is that, I saw a post today that Turning Point USA announced that they're going to sue people who did defamation against Charlie Kirk after his assassination. So
That's telling right there, right?
the wife,
Use that money. Use that donation money to sue people.
yeah, like, so it's very fast to sort the mind and say, I forgive him, but the organization is suing the defamation for the husband's defamation. It's very strange. People like asking questions, right? And does this include as defamation? It's
I
very
mean,
strange.
we can all see. We can see what it is. I think we can all see what it is, and people can use their money wisely, and if they want to send it out to them, well, have fun.
Yeah, and I can't even imagine how many millions of dollars they've collected since all this, since September 10th.
A lot. When I looked, it was tens of millions because you could see some of the accounts are.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, let me look on Guessing Go. I'll look right now while we're talking.
While you're doing that, Michael, what are your guys' thoughts? And as the National Guard is, it's been deployed in Chicago. I think it's been deployed in Chicago, and then Portland. It's back and forth, but you're seeing this expansion of federal forces coming to the United States. And I've warned of, this is a very slippery slope. What do you think about it, Michael? Masako, either one.
It's just what people have warned about since, again, I often say, since before we were born. I mean, it's the kind of play that's happened so many times, is to create a crisis, make the people beg for a solution, and then give them the solution that you wanted to give them, which is martial law in this case, right? I mean, this is not a slippery slope. This is a hostile takeover. We're way beyond mere slippery slope. And this is, and look, you've got Trump supporters demanding, people that I know to be Trump supporters are demanding that they get, troops on the streets. I don't know if they ever went to school sometimes. When, do they have any idea what's actually coming, right? This is big. This, along with digital surveillance and digital money, you got Trump pushing Bitcoin like a madman. Which is obviously, again, Trump pushed the jab, and that didn't work out well for a lot of people. And yet they'll turn right around with the Gell-Mann effect in full motion and say, "But Bitcoin's great." It's like Trump's like waving Bitcoin the way he used to wave the jab, right?
What do
This is a full takeover. It's a comprehensive. It's a full spectrum war, right? And the Chinese call it unrestricted warfare. Americans call it full spectrum war. That's why you've heard me call it full spectrum for many, many years, right? But sometimes I'll say unrestricted because most Americans are more familiar with the term, uh, because of Unrestricted Warfare, the book, which is an interesting book to read. I've read that book, Unrestricted Warfare. A lot of Americans seem to think that the Chinese came up with this idea of unrestricted warfare. But this sort of full spectrum warfare that's what we did to the American Indians, full spectrum. Came in doing information war, atrocity porn, saying that the Indians were doing this, that, feeding them with fire water, getting them into debt traps, getting other Indians to fight other Indians, making it's full. We went full spectrum on the Indians, right? And eventually beat them. It took a long, long time because they were great fighters, and eventually, they get pushed into corners and they fight their last. And now you go to northern Canada and they're just destroyed by alcohol. It's a travesty. But now the Indians in Canada and this full spectrum war, or unrestricted warfare, if you want to call it the Chinese version, is they're using the Indians as a placeholder to take so in other words, getting Indians to demand their own sovereign areas. And this is, the Russians do this, we do it, Chinese do it. It's getting people to demand their own sovereign areas, like getting people to flood into Israel, Palestine, getting people to flood into Palestine, making them convinced that it's their holy land, despite that none of them wanted to go back until the big advertisement came. Suddenly everybody's like, "I'm Jewish, I want my land," right? So, it's the same way with Scots Irish, my culture. The Scots Irish were always like, I don't have anything to do with Indians, until they did the Dawes Rolls and the Dawes Act, and you could get free land if you were part of one of the 5 civilized tribes. I mean, if you were Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, or Cherokee, or Seminole, you could get free land. Suddenly the Scots Irish are all like, "I'm Cherokee." That's why all the Scots Irish watching this, just about every Scots Irish alive has been told that they're part Cherokee. And then if you ask them, like, "Well, let's prove it together," I guarantee you, like 1 out of 50 could actually prove they're part Cherokee or Choctaw or Chickasaw. Usually it's Cherokee. Sometimes it's Chickasaw or Choctaw, but very few can actually prove it, right? But because we've been told that, they're not lying. They actually believe it. I was told that. I was told I was part Cherokee growing up. And then I was like, "Wow, I have blonde hair and I'm part Cherokee. That's pretty cool." It makes you like, "Oh, wow, I'm part Indian. I thought that was really cool." Then as I got older and you're able to check these things, I'm like, man, I'm not part. I didn't even know you could get free land. I just wanted to be part Indian because I thought it was cool to be Indian. And, but it turns out it was just a lie, which really is upsetting, is when I found out Santa Claus didn't exist. But likewise, I mean, this is one of those things when you're given free land, suddenly everybody's like, "Okay." And, a lot of missionaries call that Rice Bowl Christians. That's another iteration of this. Like, a lot of people come and pretend to be Christians for the free rice, right? but then you'll get them in the congregation, and some will become Christians or whatever, and they'll become part of that architecture. But over in Israel, that's what happened. They did the same thing. One thing the British are very good at is persuading people that that land is yours, that you have a right to it. They did it with the Rohingya. They did it with, like, they tried, the Rohingya over here in Thailand. And one of the things about Rohingya, I've been out with Rohingya. They can be quite dangerous, and they are perpetual victims. They're professional victims, and they're always demanding more and more. If you ask Thai people, why did you kick the Rohingya out? They're like, well, we welcomed them in here during the war. We gave them a safe place to live, and they just kept demanding more and more and more, and they never thanked us. And when we didn't give them the best and everything that we had, they said we were bad people. Back to Myanmar, Rohingya. So, you know what I mean? The Thais aren't little. They're not weak. You know what I mean? They're like, if you're not even going to say thank you, you can go on back. The Thais have taken in a lot of refugees that they kept here for decades when those refugees were thankful, like the Karen people, right? And Khmer people and others. They've taken a lot of people into Thailand, and they kept them for decades. They didn't give them Thai citizenship. They gave them a safe place to live, and they allowed them to make a living. Hopefully the war would end and they could go home. But when the Rohingya came over acting like Rohingya, they kicked them out. It's like that'll be enough. And but what I'm getting to is the British were all, they're really good at making people think something is yours so that they can get you to move over. Qatar, the other pole that possibly the energy, let's say not energy as in oil and gas, but let's say energy in the war system may shift over to Qatar in that region. I don't know, but keep in mind, Qatar was also formed with help from the British Empire as well, right? So this is all part of the same thing. It's not like this is disparate. A lot of people think that these are all, like Israel is actually a holy land for these people that are doing a genocide that are not even, Jewish, or whatever Jewish is, some magical gene or something, right? And do you have the magical gene? I wonder, look, I was told that I'm part Cherokee, and I was disappointed to find that I'm not. Maybe I should see if I'm part Jewish. Because if I do find out that I'm part Jewish, I might go over to Israel and try to get my piece of land in Gaza, I mean, seriously, that's what it comes down to. People think they can get some free stuff, so they're willing to go crazy, right? So the British were always really good. Who knows? Maybe I am part Jewish. And if I am, I'm going to accuse you guys of anti-Semitism if you don't donate money to me or something, right? Let's just get right on down to it. It's like, hey, anti-Semite, are you laughing at me? So it's I mean, terrible. It's terrible that you're making fun of my Semitism.
Let me apologize to you and send you a check for reparations and send you a check. Let me send you a check for reparations, Michael. For offending you.
Reparations check. I'm going to change my Gifts and Go page to Michael Yon Reparations.
I didn't mean to. You are one of God's children, and Masako and I are not. So let me make sure that I send you a check for your reparations.
I once identified as part Cherokee because I actually believed it. I was actually quite sad when I realized it wasn't true. I'm going to keep digging. Maybe I can find something. Well, and
let me ask you one thing, because I know it's real late for you guys, but I've seen the mayor of Chicago sign an executive order right before we started, where he was saying now there's ice-free zones in the city where non-compliant private businesses do not have to cooperate with the federal government. I see this thing escalating. Where do you see this going?
Wait. Let me say something about the Charlie Kirk thing. It came up on Gifts and Go. Here it is. So here's a bunch of Charlie Kirk fundraisers here. So there's 9 of them on the first page. So the 912 Project Charlie Kirk fundraiser. It's almost $700,000. Let's see. The next one is $122,000. The next one, this is another, and then another one here is $5 million, almost $500,000. And then there's another. So that's wow. So that's almost we're about 6 million at this point, or more than 6 million. Here's another one that is 990,000, almost $1 million. Here's one that only raised $85. Another one that's $725. Let's see. Here's one that raised $2.5 million. Another one that raised 1,000. Another one that raised 180. Now let's go to the next page. So you can see we're up in the millions. And here's one for $350, $1,400. Let's see if there's any more that are in the hundreds of thousands here. I'll just go through a few more. These are less. Actually, I saw some that had more money than that when I first looked. Where are those? I wonder if those have been taken down, or there were some that had significantly more. Like, yeah, I wonder if those have been taken down or what. Let me see, or maybe they're. In any case, what we just saw there is just go to Gifts and Go and look up Charlie Kirk fundraisers, and you can see for yourself. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look at that. I mean, where's all this money going? Basically, you die, and people are going to throw your. It doesn't mean it's going to him, of course. It can be going to somebody in India or Nigeria. I mean, because there's going to be a lot of people. Obviously, every time there's a hurricane or whatever, you get all these people that are raising money for the hurricane that are never going to leave Cambodia. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, a lot of many scams actually come from people that are using Cambodia as a place, and Philippines and Nigeria. And anyway, what was your question, sir?
In relation to what the mayor of Chicago said about, executive order creating ice-free zones now. So you're seeing this, in my view, civil war is escalating to another level between the federal government and state officials or city officials, local officials. Where do you see this going?
Oh, clearly into war. I mean, like obviously. And I don't know what the timeline will be or how it's going to look, but I mean, I've never seen something smell so war in my whole life. It's clearly coming, and that's why I returned to the United States in 5 years ago. I was watching this unfold. And I'm like, wow, the United States is going into civil war, and I was openly saying that. I'd been out of the United States for most of the previous 20 years, often wars like Iraq and Afghanistan, and tracking cannibals in India and running around China and all those sorts of things. And then I saw what was happening. I was like, well, this is it. This smells like war. And I went back straight to Portland. And I was hanging out with those Antifa guys who I first got to know, some of them actually in Hong Kong, Americans in Hong Kong. And I didn't know who Antifa was actually at that time when I was in Hong Kong. I did more research. And then I was in front of the courthouse watching them fight the ICE people. Actually in Portland, they were fighting at the courthouse, and they were also fighting in front of the ICE building, which they're probably doing right now. Actually, that ICE building in Portland. Actually, I got a message the other day from an officer in the ICE building, and he asked Masako and I if we can come back to the United States and cover it. But Masako, being actually a law-abiding Japanese, can't get a visa for some reason, so he can't make up the stuff.
Oh, you still can't get one, Masako? You still can't get a visa?
No, it's gonna take a long process because once the immigration office made some kind of error, so it's troublesome.
They made an error. And so anyway, and they've been unable to, despite many attempts, rectify the error, which would take a few taps of a computer screen. We know how this works. It's like not complex, right? They're obviously keeping her out for some reason. In any case, it's clearly going into war, and the war will be complex. And there's many components. There are people that are invading, like Chinese. There are obviously the Reconquista, and there are the La Raza types. There's all kinds of Islamic groups that have their own thing going separately from each other. It's not like it's one big monolith. There are obviously Indians of different sorts a lot of the Indians are professionals. They're probably not going to be anxious about going to war. They want jobs, but there are huge numbers coming in by the millions, right? So that will end up being a separatist, because the Indians are very good at getting active politically, right? And so are the Chinese. Chinese are very good at getting active politically. Eventually, they'll take over the government, because we'll be over. Well, and I think what'll happen, I'm just looking at this objectively. I'm an American. I hate to even think the thoughts that I clearly see, right? But I have to be objective. What I think is that ultimately the United States will split apart. Canada's dead. It just hasn't got the notice yet. And the United States will end up probably splitting into multiple parts. It'll be difficult to keep Hawaii. It's clear that some globalists would love to take Hawaii as their resort. I mean, that fire at Lahaina wasn't a coincidence, right? It's clear that, I mean, the people in Hawaii should be cognizant that, you know, there's a clear clearance operation going on. I have no idea how that's going to end up. But and there's these mysterious fires all over the place and floods and whatnot, like in North Carolina, you know, with water infrastructure being torn down and that sort of thing. I think you're going to see it's a multiplayer game. Like when you were in the Iraq, when I was in the Iraq war, when I was all over that war and all the provinces and looking at all the things going on, and it was very complex. Even the most astute and dialed in intelligence officers would not be able to track exactly what's going on or really actually even know everything that's going on. Even the major players were difficult because they were amorphous, they were constantly changing, there were many outside influences. Likewise in Afghanistan, and these were finite locations for war. Iraq was small, Afghanistan's relatively small, but it's a multiplayer game in the United States. There are people that'll want to. There are obviously states that are saying they want to break off, like California, but that's not really the Californian conservative people. Obviously, generally don't want to break off, but the Chinese would love for them to break off. Masako and I went to San Francisco one time, specifically because I was saying to Masako, I think China obviously wants to make San Francisco their capital in the United States, right? And then later, long after we did that trip to San Francisco, Xi showed up there. He didn't even go to Washington. He was there with the governor of California, right? And they cleaned up the streets of San Francisco when he came. I went to school in San Francisco, so I'm kind of familiar with it. And I've been there many times. It's a beautiful city, and it's the kind of place where if I was the Chinese, I would take it and make it my headquarters, and I would make that my capital because it's got a nice port there. It's got beautiful land, it's beautiful climate, access to the Pacific Ocean, straight on. In the old maritime days, which are still ongoing, you know, people would sail straight from China straight to San Francisco. You know, there's so it's just a perfect place to take. And so you've got all these different components. The Mexican groups that want to break off. You've got the La Raza, of course, super racist group of Latinos. You've got so many Islamic groups again. You've got many Hindu groups that are going to be Hindu supremacy is a real thing, and Americans will get schooled on that later when enough of them not all Hindus are supremacists, but enough of them are. Once the critical mass is reached, you'll see that happen. You know, it's game on. At this point, people keep asking for solutions, and I'm like, I gave the solution as did many others. Many were given this solution before we were born, which was keep those borders closed. Because if you open those borders for too long, that's like burning down your house. You're not going to unburn the ashes. Once it's laying in a pile of ashes, you will not unburn it. It's just dead, right? And that's what's coming. Japan needs to lock the borders. It needs to not put up with that bullshit woman. It needs to get very serious, right? It needs to not put, if LDP is going to make her into the prime minister, then LDP is destroying Japan. And it's clear. Just like the Republicans and Democrats are like tag teaming destroying the United States. And the Zionist, right? The Zionist is a political party. And of course, CCP is involved. Russians do their thing. It's a multiplayer game. How will it look? I don't know. You know, again, I spent 2 years in Iraq and 2 years in Afghanistan. And if you ask me who all was fighting after all that time, being all over both of those countries, it was a lot of people fighting for a lot of different reasons, right? And they're still fighting.
My last question is for you both individually. You both are at the top of your fields in the work that you're doing. Michael, what stands out, something different than your approach in Masako's methodology for when she is doing research and her work? What stands out to you about Masako? Yep.
Masako, she goes to the same places I go. We met in an Antifa riot. In front of the White House and BLM Plaza at night while they were doing violence. That's where we met. Masako, she's been into the Darien Gap, all deep out in there, and dangerous places, doing dangerous things. I mean, our research is very similar. We go there. That's why right out the window, right here is the Chao Phraya River, the Mississippi of Thailand, right? So we go to all these places. We physically look at them. We both read a lot of books. We both talk with a lot. We talk with a lot of very interesting people. Some are on record, some are off record, and then we talk a lot. We try to sort things out, and because there's a lot of information out there, and you have to make sense of it, right? You have to know what to throw out, which is 99% really. It's like panning for gold, right? Most of it's mud. We're looking for the flakes that we can assemble into like basically golden puzzle pieces, right? That we can assemble into what's going on.
Anything different from your approach, Michael, that Masako does? And then I'm going to ask you the same question, Masako, about Michael's approach and Michael's methodology. Is there anything that stands out that's different than your approach in Masako's work?
Not approach, but Masako sees a lot of things that I don't see. I mean, like instantly when I take her to Darien Gap, she notices things that I spent so much time down there alone. Masako shows up. She's been there like 15 minutes and notices something I didn't even notice. You should see, she's kind of unbelievable. We'll be walking down the street and she'll be like, boom, did you see that? Something on the other side of the street. We walk over, it'll be some tiny little decal or something. That's not just like once or twice. That's constant, right? It's like every day. It's all, she sees all these things, either patterns or things, and they're as a team, it's quite powerful. You know what I mean? It's not 1+1 = 2. It's 1+1 = like 5. And that's important. It's funny. What's interesting is I learned years ago too. It's very important to have women on team. Women see stuff that men just don't see. You know what I mean? I mean, you can have 10 men looking at something, looking at a film of something, trying to figure out what happened. One woman comes in and goes, hey, look at that. That guy ties his boots differently than the other ones, something like that. You know what I mean? And it'll be something that's important. And so Masako's like a built-in, she's like a mixture between a microscope and a Hubble telescope. And she had a wide-angle lens. She just sees so much stuff.
Masako, something that Michael stands out with Michael's approach that is different from yours.
I think nobody can do what Michael does. He's just a master of what he does. And I am trying
We are champions. Thank you, Masako.
I'm learning a lot from Michael how he does his professional work. And his brain is like a library. So it's not like we have a different methodology, but we are different individuals. So how we think or what we do is, of course, it's different. But like Michael said, I have like my eyes have a good sensor. So
Extremely good.
as a team, I think I'm a good at the reconnaissance, don't you think? Like when we go to places, I like to wander around. So I just go for a walk and I found a rare bookstore. And we like to find books because it's very important for our research. So we always go to bookstore and look for the old books. And so I sometimes be the one to find a bookstore. And then I will tell Michael, we should go there. And then we go there. And Michael digs deeper into those books. And so we have different eyes and different traits. So I think I am very useful as a reconnaissance.
Extremely. Can you let's show Michael some of that stuff we found in that bookstore? Can you grab it?
Yes.
It's hard for me to. This seat is like a cockpit. There's stuff in the way. Look at this. We found this in the bookstore, and they wouldn't sell us the magazines, so we actually just bought the displays from them. This is bookstore Masako found. Which one should we show first? Let's show Walter Cronkite. Walter Cronkite. Look at this. What was the date on this one? This one is where's the date, Masako? There it is. You know how to spot stuff. There. 1971. So Walter Cronkite, a nice guy, right? But look at this. Can you read it?
How the U.S. Army spies on citizens, right on the cover of the Life magazine.
And Time Life is one of the great, information ops. By the way, I had a Time magazine photo of the year one time. But this is Walter Cronkite, a nice guy. This guy, so many Americans are like, I remember when Walter Cronkite, everybody trusted. They're like, I remember when media was honest. It's like, no, you don't. You remember when you thought it was honest. That's what you remember. And he was a hardcore globalist. Walter Cronkite was a trashy globalist. He even said something like, I will be glad to sit at the right hand of Satan. Did you ever see that video?
No.
He actually said it. Look at this one. This is 1973. Changing the World's Money, Time magazine. That was when we went off the gold standard right then, right? Changing the world's money. We found that in a store that Masako found the other day. Yeah. And I'm telling you, Time Life, that's one of the major information operations. And I actually shot one of the Time magazine photos of the year, actually. And where's that other one? Oh, these. There they are. Masako. Look at this. So they wouldn't sell us the magazine. You can find them on eBay. I've already found them. What year was that, Masako?
1972.
1972. Look at this. Now, right beside that was look at this other one.
It says Time, the Occult Revival, and then on the very bottom, there's a picture of Satan, and in the bottom of what Michael's showing, it says Satan Returns.
Yeah. Now look at that. And then Masako noticed, if you look at this and you turn it upside down, I don't know how you notice stuff like this, Masako. It's kind of bizarre. And oh, I'm sorry. She said I noticed, but I give her credit. So she's so honest, Japanese. And so I read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People when I was a teenager. So look at this.
I have that book right over here. I have that book on my shelf.
I love that book, man.
It's a great book.
You read it too, didn't you, Masako? Yeah. How to Win and the Power of Positive Thinking. Everybody should read it. Look at that. Yeah. But so we bought both of these because they were sitting beside each other. What are the other ones? We got to show him this one. Okay. Let's show him this one. And then we'll show him that one after that. This one is, look at this. This one is April 1963. April 1963. And it says, can you read it?
Too Many Kennedys by Alistair Crook.
Yep. And later that year, one of those Kennedys would no longer be on this page. He was assassinated. So Too Many Kennedys, and then later in the same year, he was assassinated. Wow. Can you imagine that? So there's him and there's his wife. There's him, there's his wife. There's him, and there's his wife. I think that's his wife. Is that her? Is that his wife?
Maybe she was little.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe somebody else can see it. But look, so this is April 1963. And it also says right here, incorporating USA. I got to send that to Ann Vandersteel and see what she has to say about that. She's always talking about stuff like that. As soon as I saw that, I was like, wow. Anyway, this is the bookstore that Masako found. Too Many Kennedys. And that's months before he died. That's that bookstore Masako found the other day. And here's another one. How U.S. indifference aided Nazi murderers of 6 million Jews, right? I think we all know by now the 6 million fantasy has collapsed. We all know it's not true. I mean, it's pretty obvious. And that total thing has totally collapsed. It's obvious that 6 million didn't die in the Holocaust. It's a naked lie, right? But it held for so long, and look at all the money they raised off of it. I'm not saying there wasn't a Holocaust, because there were a lot of Polish died, and there were a lot of Russians and Ukrainians and others died. There was a Holocaust, and there was some Jews died too, right? But it wasn't like 6 million. That's a obvious lie. They were using that term for generations before World War II. They were using 6 million. They were using the 6 million, right? It's time for people to stop beating around the bush. Professional victims are predators, right? And once that narrative breaks down, people are going to be upset. And Charlie Kirk was starting to call them out. Here's one more. This is 1958, November 3rd, 1958. Time Life, and it's hypnosis Old black art is now accepted as medical tool. Hypnosis, Darwin's insects. Now, only I think maybe not many people are going to realize the connection between hypnosis and Darwin and all that mind control stuff, but we'll save that for another time. But but at the end of the day, what I'm getting to is this is the old magazines. They were signaling what's going to happen. Too many Kennedys. April 1963 and November, one Kennedy less. Amazing, isn't it? And they're signaling it right now.
Where can people find you, Masako? Let people know where they can find you and your Substack.
Oh, yes, I have an X account, and recently I started Substack, and first article is out, and now working on the second one. Thank you very much.
Michael.
Yeah, I'm on Substack too. And so Masako just started her Substack. So I'm looking forward to seeing. I see a lot of the same things that Masako sees because we're often together, but she sees things in a very different light. So it's extremely helpful. So that's why I watch her work all the time, because I'll end up learning things that I'm like, I was right there, but then I read her work and I learned something. It's pretty interesting. So Substack. Yep.
And your X?
Oh, I'm on X too. That is Michael _ no, it's Big Honey. Look up Big Honey. That's it. So I go under Big Honey. I just changed it to Big Honey. Everybody wants Big Honey.
As always, to both of you, thank you for taking the time. Make sure you guys go out, people that listen, to subscribe to their work, become a paid subscriber to both Masako and Michael on Substack. They're traveling all over the place trying to get the information out, get the truth out to people. For people that are going to watch this, comment, like, share, YouTube, Rumble, audio, Spotify, Apple. I read all the comments, and then for those, I put all these episodes up on Substack early for paid subscribers. So consider supporting independent media like myself, Masako, and Michael. So thank you guys, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Mic drop.
See you in Japan. Bye.
Thank